Hello, everyone. This is Travis J. Vernon, and welcome to today's podcast. When I think back on my life and the oldest memories I have when I was very, very young, most of them revolved around art projects and science projects, and those are some of the things that really defined me as a person. I've always been extremely inquisitive. I want to learn how to do things. And in many aspects, that's actually caused problems later in life. Because the older I get, the more I understand that I'm not going to be able to learn everything. I'm not going to be able to become truly an expert in one field because I can't focus in just one field. I can't put all of my time and resources into just one thing. I've said in other podcasts how cyclical my hobbies are and how I get really into one thing and then I get not bored with it, but I get so excited about the next hobby that I dive into that. And then after a few hobby rotations, I started to remember, I love knife making and I need to make some more knives. And I'll jump back into that. I love decoys. I need to make more decoys. And then in the back of my mind, there's always those other things that I haven't even started yet. But the central thing to all of those hobbies that I have, all of the activities, all of the art, is creation. Being able to have that creative mind and see the duck inside the wood, see the fish inside the wood, see the end result, or to see in my mind's eye the possibilities. Now, often I can't actually get onto canvas or onto paper or into a carving exactly what I envision in my mind. And from time to time, that's frustrating. Often I need to walk away from a canvas. I can't just sit and paint and be satisfied. I tend to tinker too much. I go back and make changes. My Grandpa Dean and my Grandma Betty, my mother's parents, so my maternal grandparents, were amazing oil painters. And I would have to say my formal art training would have started with them. I continued to draw and paint my entire life. I had a subscription to Field and Stream when I was young. And I would find pictures that I found fascinating and I would draw them. And my media of choice when I was younger was just pencil. I loved pencil work. The contrast, being able to shade with graphite. Then as I got a little bit older, I started to explore more mediums. Whenever I'd go to my grandparents, it was oil painting or acrylics. And then in high school, I had a fantastic art teacher and I started to learn even more. Just using different techniques. And through all that, I kind of fell into becoming the visual arts Sterling Scholar for my high school. So when I graduated, I had scholarships to continue with art. Well, I didn't think that's what I wanted to do with my life. I was convinced that you had to go to college and make lots of money and follow those paths. But because I had those scholarships, both my freshman and sophomore years, I took a couple of art courses that opened up even more mediums and seeing the world from a completely different view from some of those art professors. And they really had a big influence on my art. When I would paint with my Grandma Betty, she loved Bob Ross, which, how can you not love Bob Ross? But my Grandma Betty would sit down and we'd watch Bob Ross and then paint things that were similar. And in all my oil paintings, you can still see very much a Bob Ross influence. My brother-in-law, who's also an amazing artist, even said when he saw one of my oil paintings, "Wow, it looks like a Bob Ross," which I find as a compliment, while at the same time I think, I wonder if anybody would ever think, that's a Travis Vernon. Well, I always sign my paintings T. Vernon, so maybe they'd think, it's a T. Vernon. Probably not. I probably don't paint enough. I don't have time. I have too many other hobbies I want to do. But when I dive into all of these different hobbies, the creation aspect is so enjoyable for me. I'm fascinated by wood grains. I love doing different types of woodworking, from making boxes to knife handles to decoys. I like creating arrows for my traditional archery gear. On that side of it, I even like flint knapping. I love rock hounding, and through rock hounding, I can find materials that I can use to make arrowheads, to actually put arrowheads in my arrows. It's just fun. It's fun to do. I have a good friend, Gary Hendrickson, who carves fish, and I think I've talked about him before. And I have 2 of his fish sculptures. He even carves the rocks and paints the rocks to look like actual river rock. I don't know why I'm so fascinated by that. Probably because it's wood that looks like a rock, and I like both of those things. But in my paintings, I make rocks look like rocks. I think I just need to do some fish sculptures. I've done fiberglass reproductions for people of fish that they've caught. Ooh, I might have just opened up a bag of worms there. Not a lot of my clients know that I can do that. So if you want me to do a fish reproduction of one of the fish you catch, I am game to do it. But you have to be epically patient because I am so OCD. It takes me a long time, which is why I don't think I could ever do any sort of taxidermy or reproductions for a job, because it does take me so long to get it the way I want it. I guess that's a pro and a con. And that takes me back to one of my lessons from Tom Matus, who was a world champion decoy carver who taught me a ton about carving decoys. I kept going back and changing old decoys. I'd recarve them, repaint them, adjust the head. And when I told him that, he got really upset with me and said, Travis, don't go back and try and fix past errors. Look at every decoy. Decide what you like about it and what you don't like about it, and then change it on the next decoy and move on. Your next one will be better, and then your next one will be better, and continue on that path. Don't try and go back and change decoys. And that has a lot of analogies for life. It's funny because I teach that exact same thing to people when I'm teaching them how to tie flies. Whenever you sit down to tie a fly, tie at least a half a dozen. It's better if you tie a dozen, because as you tie each fly, you'll make small changes. And your first couple flies are not going to be very good, and your last few flies are going to be great. If you just continue to tie the same fly over and over and over again, you become better. Now, I am not a proponent of practice makes perfect. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. So when you get that decoy head to be exactly how you want it, when you get those paints to mix exactly how you want them, when you get that fly to tie just with the right proportions and the way you want it to look, then practice that over and over again and you'll get even better. But don't be afraid of change either. I think that's one of the fun things about oil painting. I had a painting I did that was kind of a rainy, stormy day, had a lot of fog. I had a winding river, and I didn't like it. I don't know what it is, but some paintings I just don't like. Now, my grandfather would throw those away. He would just take the canvas, throw it in the trash, walk away from it. And some of my family would pull them out of the trash, and some of those paintings are hanging in our homes, and they're outstanding paintings. So maybe it's the eye of the beholder. So I learned my lesson by finding out that people will grab stuff out of trash, and I paint over them. So this painting I didn't like, I sent a picture to my mom because my wife Nancy told me that, no, it was great. You should show your mom, see what she thinks. My mom's always going to tell me it looks great. That's what moms do. Another Tom Matus story. If you want to feel good about something, show your close family and friends. They're going to tell you how awesome it is. But if you want to get better, show someone that's going to give you an honest critique on what you need to improve on. Now, that's not bad-mouthing my mom or my wife or any of my family and friends, but there is some truth behind it. Getting that positive reinforcement is great, but if you never have to reevaluate why you did something, or is it even good enough in certain aspects, or things that they don't like, it doesn't add the balance. You can't really improve if everybody tells you everything you do is awesome. We fall into that everybody gets a trophy syndrome. And while, yeah, you don't want to hurt people's feelings, sometimes you have to not worry about the feelings and worry about the final painting. I think more often than not, when people see my artwork, one, they're surprised, which I'm not sure why, but they're surprised. So something about me, my demeanor, my attitude, the way I interact with people, leads people to believe that either I'm not capable or that it's just a surprise that I do any kind of art. And then many of them think that it's good. I don't know. I like to do it, so I do it for me. To this point, I've never sold an art piece. I guess unless you count those fiberglass reproductions. Or flies. Flies are still art, right? I have sold decoys. Everything I just said was a lie. I have sold art. I never looked at it that way, but I guess I have. In those cases, when I was selling decoys, I mainly sold decoys to buy more supply so that I could create more decoys. So that I could continue to do what Tom had told me and make each decoy better. So I would sell the older ones. I always felt bad doing that, though, because I knew that they weren't my best. So I guess I don't like to sell things that I think are subpar. It's an interesting way to look at it, I guess. I'm struggling right now with some of my knife handles that I'm putting on for some of my friends. I'm having an issue getting brass to bond with curl leaf mahogany and then not breaking that bond when I overheat the brass through sanding. I've got to figure out which kind of adhesive to use or how I can better bond those things. I probably just need to finish the handle on the knife, bond it on, and then finish it. I'll have to keep experimenting, figure that one out. It was very much a learning curve for me, though, when I switched after high school from primarily charcoals, pencils, pen and inks, which is black and white contrast, to color. Decoys were the first big color shift for me outside of painting oils with my grandparents. And not only was I switching from black and white to color, I was also switching from a flat canvas to a curved piece of wood. So that was interesting. Learning color on a curved surface was completely different than a flat canvas. But fun, just the same. Different challenges. I like challenges. To a point, I also like to succeed. So there comes a time where I just get too frustrated and walk away. But with my cyclical stuff, I'll always come back to it. Speaking of coming back to something I haven't done in a long time, I just purchased a whole big sheet of vegetable tanned leather. I haven't done any kind of leather work or leatherworking in a very long time. I'd say that was I probably haven't done that since high school, so I'm going on almost 30 years. Made a few knife sheaths, that's about it. But no tooling, no real sewing. So I'm looking forward to making some more stuff with leather. Especially for my traditional archery stuff. Gloves, quivers, arm guards. There's so many fun things you can make with leather. So it looks like my trip to Scotland and Ireland is actually going to happen this year. 2 full years of postponements due to COVID. Everything looks to be in the stars. Knock on wood. But hopefully, everything pans out. I'll say my biggest concern, I hate being away from my dogs. I know they'll be fine. I know they'll be excited when I get home. But I hate being away from them. They're just such a part of my life. When I'm painting, Brooks will come in. She'll know that I'm occupied. So she'll gently walk in and set her head in my lap. Like, Dad, I hope this isn't bothering you too much. She's such a good pup. Lucy doesn't really care. She looks forward to me getting out of the bed so that she can have my spot, and she'll sleep in the warm spot of the bed for as long as she can. I've got today off, so I'm trying to decide in my order of priorities what type of creation projects I can work on. Already started planning some of the garden items. Refilled the soil in the greenhouse. Started to top off the soil in the raised bed. I'm going to need a lot more dirt for that. It's going to be a super warm day today, so I should be able to get outside and get some things done. But I also want to paint. And I need to tie flies because it's almost fly fishing season and I haven't tied nearly enough for this upcoming year. Aside from that, I have all of these knives I want to get finished. I've got a decoy staring at me in my den right now that has been mostly finished, just needs to be hollowed and painted. I need to get it sealed and weighted with the keel so that it'll float properly. But that's another thing I need to work on. Getting a project completely finished before I move on to my next hobby. but that can be difficult for me. I get so excited. And spring's coming up. We're starting to get the foraging side of things. If it stays warm like this, it won't be too long till there's morel mushrooms. The rock hounding's been super fun. Oh, I built a new rock tumbler. My crappy small rock tumbler motor died. And I tried to fix it. Couldn't get it to work. Watching YouTube videos. Figured out I'm going to have to get a new motor. And then I jumped down that rabbit hole, and now I've built a brand new rock tumbler with metal rods, rollerblade wheels, and the motor from a automotive windshield wiper. So far, that thing's been running strong for 3 weeks nonstop. Doing great. So I think maybe I'll build another one of those today. I've got enough parts to do one more. Just another fun thing. Ties in rock counting to creation. I do need to flint nap too. I'll have to tell you that story. We went down to, near Moab in southern Utah. Does Moab count as southern Utah? Probably. It's Red Rock Desert. It's mostly southern. There's a place down there called the Agate Hills, and there's a type of agate called pigeon blood agate. And it looks like if you dripped blood into the agate, very small specks and splatters of blood inside of a milky to clear agate. It's very beautiful. I just think it'd be neat to make some arrowheads out of that. Or maybe a knife handle if I can get a piece to flint nap big enough. In all my spare time. But that being said, it's time to get ready for church. I need to go shower and change. And I'm just looking around my den at all the projects I need to work on today. So I'm going to get as much done as I possibly can. But there's some amazing soccer games on today, so I'm going to have to watch those too. I know that's American as it gets. I usually call it football unless I'm speaking to someone that actually calls it soccer. If you have some time, dig into a new hobby. Find something where you can create something. Don't expect perfection. Continue to grow and improve. Make each one better. And just like Bob Ross says, you can do anything you want in your world. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Get out there and live your stories.